Hello everyone, this is Laura from Three Kittens Needle Arts. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to do a tubular cast on for a 1x1 ribbing. I did the tubular cast on in this hat. This is my Brule hat pattern. And as you can see, it's nice and stretchy. There's no tightness along the cast on edge that you sometimes get with a long tail cast on. And the other nice thing about it is it creates an edge that looks almost like your stitches are just flowing up from nothing. There's no cast on edge, so to speak, when you're looking at it. So I'm going to set this aside and then we'll get started. So the first thing I like to do is try to figure out how much yarn I'm going to need for my tail. This is a version of a long tail cast on, and you know how annoying it is when you run out of yarn in your tail as you're doing the long tail cast on. So what I like to do is wrap my yarn around my knitting needle for 10 stitches and figure out how much yarn that is, and then extrapolate out for the total number of stitches that I want to cast on. So I'm going to do 10 stitches, and I will just say make sure that your stitches, at least when you first wrap them, are not on this pointy end, or in this situation on a circular needle, not on the tapering end at the other edge of the tip. So I'm going to do 10 wraps. And then I'm going to grab the beginning and the end of that and pull it off. Let's get rid of that needle. So that's about how much yarn I need for 10 stitches. I'm going to cast on 20, so in order to calculate 20, I just double that. So about that much. And then because I already have a little bit of a tail, I've got a little extra. I may add a little bit extra on the working yarn as I, just to make sure. All right. The first step in your cast on is going to be a slip knot. So I like to not use a slip knot because then I have a knot in the edge of my knitting. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to form a little loop, put my needle in from top to bottom, and then twist it as I come up. And then I can grab my yarn for my long tail cast, as if I was doing a long tail cast on. You can see the yarn is twisted below the needle, so it's not really going to go anywhere. So this is a great thing if you want to avoid those knots in your knitting. So your first stitch is your first stitch on your needle is what would have been my slip knot, but is just on the needle. This is a knit stitch. So next we need to make a purl stitch for 1x1 ribbing. So you're going to go under the yarn on your index finger, over the yarn on your thumb, grab the yarn and pull it through and under the yarn on your index finger. Your next stitch is going to be a knit stitch, so you're going to go under the yarn in your thumb, over the yarn on your index finger, pull it through and under the yarn on your thumb, under the yarn on your index finger, over the yarn on your thumb, grab it, pull it under the yarn on your index finger, under the yarn on your thumb, over the yarn on your index finger, grab it, pull it under the yarn on your thumb, under the yarn on your index finger, over the yarn on your thumb, grab it, pull it under the yarn on your index finger, under the yarn on your thumb, over the yarn on your index finger, grab it and pull it under the yarn on your thumb. As you can see, the stitches are not anchored in any way. With a regular long tail cast on, there's almost a little knot formed underneath, but that doesn't happen with a tubular cast on. So I would highly recommend that you start your tubular cast on when you know you can finish it. Leave enough time so that you can do the whole total number of stitches that you need, so that you don't have to put it down. If you put it down, you're just going to end up having to start over again. So right now I've got 2, 4, 6, 7 stitches. So I need to do 20, so I'm just going to keep going. Under, over, pull through. Under, over, pull through. Under, over, pull through. Under, over, pull through. Under, over, and pull through. Under, I'm doing it so fast I can't even keep up with my words. So I better count because I'm not really sure how many I have now. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. Here's another tip. If you lose place of what you're supposed to do next, your purl stitches are the ones that are formed by going under your index finger and over the thumb yarn and pulling it through. And your purl stitches will have a bump on the front, just like a regular purl stitch would. Your knit stitches will not have that. So I don't know if you can see that there. So I know because there's a bump underneath my stitch, I need to do a knit stitch next. So and you're always going to end with a purl stitch in 1x1 rib. So I've got all my stitches on, and now I need to turn my work. I would highly recommend not trying to join in the round. If you're starting something in the round, just go ahead and do one row flat, and then you can join in the round with the next row. Even if the pattern says join in the round and start, do whatever it's, well, it would say a K1P1 rib, do K1P1 rib after you've joined in the round. Don't do that. Just turn it around, knit it flat, and then join in the round for the second round. So you need to turn it around carefully so you don't lose the stitch here. Remember, it's not anchored on the bottom at all, so I would hold on to it. Turn your work, and then you're ready to go. Again, this stitch is not anchored. It could easily fall off. So it's important that the working yarn comes from underneath it so it will lock it in place when you knit that first stitch. So let's go ahead and knit the stitch. And I will just hold that down a little bit. We can tighten it up in just a moment. So knit the stitch, and then let's pull it tight. There we go. Next stitch is a purl stitch. All the rest of the knit stitches you will have to knit in the back of the stitch. As you can see on this needle, the stitch is turned around from what it would normally be. This is what a knit stitch normally looks like. So you got the front leg kind of to the right of the back leg. But when you do the tubular cast on, it's the opposite. The back leg is or the front leg is still to the right of the back leg, but it's over the top of the needle differently. So you're going to knit in the back of the stitch and purl. And that's basically it, except there's a tendency for the stitches, the cast on stitches, to twist around the needle. And I'm kind of waiting for it to do that so that I can show you what it looks like and how confusing it can be. If it doesn't do it soon, I will make it happen so you can see. You can see here that your next stitch is a purl stitch, but it looks like your purl stitch is on backwards, kind of like the knit stitches are. But really what's happened is that your yarn is twisted around your needle. So when it looks like this and the purl stitch looks like it's on backwards, you need to rotate your yarn around your needle, and voila, there is the purl stitch just as it should be. It's just that the stitches tend to rotate around and then it's confusing. So you just have to make sure that you're back at the right spot. Same thing here. If this was like this and you were like, oh, look, I've got a knit stitch that's on the needle the correct way. That's not really the case. You just need to rotate your yarn back around so that it's in the right direction. It's not that you did something really super excellent on your cast on. It's just that the stitches have moved around on your needle. So there you go. That is a tubular cast on for 1x1 ribbing. When you're ready to knitting around, like now, I don't have enough stitches on my needle to show you, but you would just go to the next needle, make sure all your stitches are lined up properly so that they don't twist, and away you go. I hope this helps you, and enjoy your knitting. Thanks.